This, for you. Sitting down on the rattan chair, I placed the documents Kevin brought on the round table. Julius Weston frowned, but didn't take the documents. Instead, he picked up his coat from the side and handed it to me. Put it on. I was stunned for a moment and waved my hand. No need. You should read the documents first. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. After he finished reading and signing, I will go back to the room directly. It only took a few minutes. Put it on, Julius Weston repeated. He seemed to have an attitude that if I didn't wear it, we wouldn't have anything to talk about. Helpless, I had to put on his coat. Are you two really together? Julius Weston suddenly asked. I pursed my lips and avoided the question, pushing the documents towards him. Take a look. If there are no issues, just sign. Julius's expression turned dark as he flipped through the documents briefly. Unexpectedly, his brows furrowed tighter and tighter. What? Do you think the conditions are not suitable? I looked at him in confusion. I thought the conditions I offered were already very generous. I entrusted all my 15% shares to Julius Weston, so he would have 25% of the shares. Apart from my mother's 27%, he would already be the highest individual shareholder in the company. I still had some self-awareness. Instead of overestimating myself and taking over the company myself, I might as well give everything to Julius Weston. Directly appoint him as the general manager. My mother and I wouldn't have to do anything, just lie back and make money. Isn't that great? But I didn't give him these shares for nothing. I've entrusted everything to you. It's not excessive to ask for some security, right? I had 3 conditions. First, you must never sever the adoption relationship with my family. He must always be my brother, always surnamed Weston. Second, I don't care how the company is managed. The annual dividend income from my mother and me must be 50 million. My mother is just afraid that Julius Weston is not a family member and might be taken advantage of. So why bother with all these troubles? Whether he's being taken advantage of or not, as long as there's a fixed 50 million. If the profit is low, Julius Weston will pay us out of his own pocket. If the profit is high, he can keep it for himself. After all, we can't let him work hard to manage the company for nothing. If we want to be absentee landlords, we have to pay a price. Third, Julius Weston must move out of our house. In this lifetime, unless it's a matter of life and death or natural disasters, we don't need to see each other again. No need to see each other? There was a coldness in Julius Weston's lips. Karina, why should I let you off easily? What kind of nonsense is this? I was so angry that I burst into laughter. You only care about profit, right? What do you mean by let me off easily? I don't believe you can face me and my mom like you used to. It's better for everyone if we don't see each other anymore. Is it better? Julius Weston slammed the file to the ground, his eyes burning with anger. I've never been good. Karina, if you want me to sign the contract, fine. I have one condition. You can't be with Kevin Shaw. His fist clenched tightly, the bulging veins on the back of his hand indicating Julius's anger. I felt powerless, gazing into the distance, tucking my cold fingertips into my pocket. What does this have to do with Kevin Shaw? Julius Weston, you can't let go of the grudges from the past. What's done is done. We can't go back. The words came to an abrupt halt. I stood still for a few seconds, then took out my hand from my pocket. My fingers inadvertently brought out the sharp object I had just touched. A yellow paper star. It must have fallen into Julius's pocket that night when the jar broke accidentally. The only surviving star. My eyes trembled as I slowly unfolded it layer by layer, but a fair hand swiftly snatched it away. Julius's face turned livid as he tore it to pieces. With narrowed pupils, I looked at Julius and said slowly, "So, you already knew what was in the star jar that Kevin gave me?" In almost an instant, the scene from the day I was reborn flashed through my mind. His regained love was right in front of him. The moment to express the regret that had been held for a lifetime was imminent. Julius Weston, for some reason, insisted on checking all the paper stars in my room first. In that moment, I seemed to have an answer. I stood up abruptly from the chair, shaking my head, stepping back several steps. So, Julius's hostility towards Kevin Shaw. Could it be not only because he married Betty Foster in his past life? Yes, if Kevin disliked Betty Foster so much, why would he agree to marry her? Could it be that, in the past life, I couldn't help but gasp. Kevin fought with you to a standstill. Was it for me? Every time Julius met with Kevin, he would come back and stir things up with me. Not because of Betty Foster? Yes. Julius suddenly stepped forward, grabbing my arm. His eyes were bloodshot as he gritted his teeth. Every time he came to me, it was to negotiate, to let me let you go. But damn it, I just couldn't. I don't want to let you go even if I die. The strength in my arms suddenly weakened. Julius pulled me into his arms, as if admitting defeat, resting his forehead on my shoulder. I thought, I didn't want to let you go because I hated you. But the moment you coughed up blood in front of me, I was really scared. At that moment, I felt that as long as you could live, no hatred mattered anymore. After coming back to life, I thought everything was over, and we could start over. But Karina, even when I was with Betty, all I could think about was you. I was afraid that you would really be with Kevin Shaw, afraid that you would accept him, fall in love with him. Karina, I might really love. Shut up. I slapped him hard, stopping the the words he hadn't said. My palm trembled violently, shaking my head and stepping back continuously. Julius Weston, you can't. No matter what you want to say, you can't say it. When he imprisoned me in his past life, his mind was full of Betty. Now, with Betty in this life, he's starting to think about me again. Julius Weston, in this life, I can only be your sister. There won't be anything else. I didn't know what Julius Weston said to Betty Foster that night. All I knew was that when she came to our house the next morning, her eyes were red. It seemed like the two of them had a big quarrel inside. The voices were loud, mixed with sounds of crying. Even in the music room, I could vaguely hear them. My fingers smoothly hit the keys of the piano, the sound covering up the noise that had nothing to do with me. My heart gradually calmed down, but I didn't expect Betty to suddenly push the door open. She seemed to have been having a hard time recently. Even her delicate makeup couldn't hide her fatigue. With red eyes, she must have just cried. My fingers paused slightly, looking at her in confusion. Betty, do you need something? Betty forced a smile, her gaze casually sweeping over my piano, and asked, Karina, I heard that the winner of this piano competition will have a chance to study at Berklee for 3 years? I pursed my lips. Yes, you will win, right? Betty looked at me, with a hint of tension in her eyes. As my fingers completely left the piano keys, I looked at her seriously and smiled. I didn't plan to beat around the bush and said directly, you can rest assured, whether I win or not, my mom and I will cut ties with Julius Weston. So, stop playing those useless tricks. It's quite disgusting. I felt like I was being quite gentle, but Betty inexplicably teared up and smiled. What can I do then? I finally snatched him away from you, but found traces of you all over his heart. My fingers slightly tightened, and I seemed to see myself from a past life. But Betty was a bit better than me. I had no choice, but she did. Do you still need to persist? Betty smiled sadly. It's necessary. As long as you disappear from his world, I am confident that I can be with him until the end. The words lingered on my lips. In the end, I swallowed them back. The thing one should never do in this life is to try to persuade and change someone's beliefs. I respect your choice. I smiled sincerely at Betty. I wish you all the best. On the day of my piano competition, Kevin came. Julius Weston was also there. Both of them were holding flowers in their arms. I hesitated, then stepped forward to accept Kevin's bright red roses. Julius lowered his head and looked at the vibrant sunflowers in his arms, smiled bitterly. Turning around, he threw the flowers into the trash can. There was a slight sound, but everyone backstage was slightly stunned. Julius Weston, however, seemed oblivious and smiled at me. Karina, can we talk? I quietly locked eyes with him for 3 seconds and nodded. Okay. Kevin raised his eyebrows and whispered in my ear. You still haven't given me an answer. Why are you talking to him first? I made a soft clicking sound and kicked his foot. What are you competing with him for? As Julius Weston was here one moment and gone the next, we might not see each other again in the future. He had a long way to go. Was it necessary to fight over this? Kevin seemed to have realized this too, pursed his lips, and whispered, after you finish the competition, you must give me an answer. Otherwise, I will really sue you. In the quiet staircase, Julius Weston stood with his back to me, fists clenched. I shrugged, feeling a bit cold. Karina, if I hadn't seen the competition flyer today, hadn't seen the award for the winner to study abroad at Berklee, when were you planning to tell me that you were leaving? Would it be one day I come home, only to find both you and mom gone? And then I search everywhere, only to realize that you had already left me behind? Julius Weston's voice was hoarse. It echoed softly in the empty staircase. I lowered my eyes and pursed my lips. I planned to inform you after winning the competition. It's informing, not telling, because regardless of whether I win the competition or not, whether Julius Weston may sign that power of attorney or not, both my mom and I are leaving. The new house has been bought. A new life I have already planned, and in my plan from start to finish, there is no Julius Weston. The shares he doesn't want are eagerly sought by others. There are others who can run the company, not just him. Brother, I sighed. Sign the agreement. Consider it my final compensation to you. After all, in the past life, it was my mom's fault first. Strictly speaking, Julius Weston is also a victim. There is really no need for revenge against him. Parting on good terms. It also honors the bond we had as family in this life. Karina, Julius Weston's voice trembled. Do you really want to leave me behind? Julius, we haven't been on the same path for a long time, so how can it be considered abandonment? What if I love you? What if I have already broken up with Betty? Julius Weston finally turned around, his eyes already red. Smack. I slapped him expressionlessly. This is the answer. If you say such things once, I will hit you once. Until you stop saying such crazy things. Julius Weston turned his face away, tears silently sliding down from the corners of his eyes. Even his breathing became shaky. Karina, what did I do wrong? I just regretted a little too late. In the past life, your Weston family controlled my fate. Shouldn't I hate you all? But in this life, I woke up, I found my true love. Smack. I slapped Julius Weston's face backhandedly. I remained expressionless. Saying those things is useless now. You only have two choices. Either you continue with this nonsense, then hold on to that 10% share. Stepping down from the general manager to a shareholder position. I will hire someone else as the general manager before I go abroad. Or, you sign the agreement, then steadily be your general manager, making endless money. Which one will you choose? As I stepped out of the staircase, the wind in the corridor blew across my cheeks, bringing a chill. I reached out to touch, but felt dampness. Did I actually cry? Tears of joy? Or a new lease on life? Or a sense of relief? I don't know, but it is definitely not because of sadness. A person leaned against the wall not far away, in a suit, with a handsome face, but he was anxiously tapping the wall with the back of his head. I didn't know how long he had been waiting. Kevin Shaw. I called him softly. Kevin suddenly straightened up, subconsciously looking behind me. After confirming that Julius hadn't followed, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yuri done talking to him, now it's my turn, right? I took out my phone to check the time. It's probably too late. I have to go on stage. After saying that, I smiled slyly. I took out a paper star from my pocket and handed it to him. Wait until I'm on stage, then look at it. The spotlight shone on my face as I lifted the hem of my dress and sat down. My fingers rested on the piano keys, but I didn't play immediately. I glanced over the audience below the stage. Kevin was sitting in the front row, earnestly unfolding the paper star. It was the stray star I finally found tucked at the head of my bed after rummaging through everything. Inside was Kevin's confession to me. If things don't work out between you and Julius Weston, then look back at me. I've been waiting for you for many years. But now, in Kevin's hand, that paper star had an additional line of text. It wasn't exactly a response, just an address. The address of the house I recently bought in the United States. Dong. My fingers touched the piano keys, and I smiled as I pressed the first note. And then, after that, I married Kevin and settled down in our homeland. Ding dong. My phone made a message alert sound. Kevin, who was teasing our daughter, pursed his lips, looking awkward. Darling, your 50 million alimony has been transferred. You are so jealous. I poked his forehead with my finger. This is called welfare dividends, not alimony. As my finger slid, I opened the message. The transferred amount far exceeded 50 million. Under the transfer record, as always, there was a note attached. Karina, please meet me, I beg you. Without changing my expression, I deleted the message with a flick of my hand. Turning back to my daughter, I clapped my hands. Come, baby, let mommy hug you. My body fell into warm arms. Kevin hugged me tightly and lightly kissed my lips. The child can step aside, my wife, I'll hug you first. If you don't let go, I'll sue you for domestic violence. Tisk, I smirked. Then you better call the police. May we all can find the person who truly loves you.